People who have seen something they could never explain. What was the thing? Shortly after my mother passed away, I was going through and organizing her belongings in her room. I was talking out loud as if I were talking to her. There were some boxes with family photo albums I'd been looking for that I hadn't been able to find, and it was really worrying me. I was sitting on the floor and said aloud, "Where did you leave those albums, Mom?" Very slowly, her closet door opened on its own. A slow, creaking movement from nearly totally closed to halfway open. I was as terrified as I'd ever been in my life. I froze and didn't move, but I looked at exactly eye level, and there was a cardboard box labeled albums in my mother's handwriting on the lower shelf of the closet. I am not a religious or even spiritual person, and I thought that there might be some imbalance in the hanging of the closet door. I went back to the door many times and tested it by wiggling it back and forth and leaving it in different positions, but it's never moved that way since. In my early 20s, I was home alone. I woke up to my cell phone ringing but missed the call. The number I missed the call from was my landline home phone number. I got up and found the cordless phone on the kitchen counter. I looked everywhere, but no one was in the house and the doors were all locked. I fly helicopters for a living. I was working on a power line one year and was going back to our landing zone and noticed an opening in the trees, what appeared to be a leg. I came back and tried to get as low as I could into the clearing, thinking it was a person. It was a full-grown cow that had been completely skinned. There were no farms around and the animal didn't appear to be cut up in any way. I went back to the landing zone, picked up one of my ground crew members, and flew back with him just so he could verify that I wasn't crazy. The flight back, we were both kind of in awe because we have no idea how that animal got to where it's at. Even more so that it had no skin on its entire body, it looked like a perfect cow sans skin. I was walking along a park sidewalk, blowing off grass clippings. Got under some pine trees and through a break in the canopy an 8 to 10 pound rock came tumbling out of the sky, bounced and chipped the sidewalk and rolled down into a creek. Weirdest thing I've ever seen. Was talking on the phone to my dad in the garden about 15 years ago. Saw an orange light slowly come up over some trees behind my house, then take off straight up at a ridiculous speed. Stood there in silence, and so did he. Explained to him what I'd just seen, and he said he'd just seen the exact same thing. He was over 100 miles away in Manchester at the time. Me and my brother saw light coming through a bricked-off vent in my house about 20 years ago. It was a powerful light, like there was a mini sun in there. Light has never come through it before or since, and we both still remember it. In my old townhouse, the bedrooms had L-shaped door handles. I lived alone and it was a 2-story townhouse with the bedrooms upstairs. Had multiple nights where I'd be laying in bed watching YouTube videos on my iPad, when my door handle would twist and the door would slowly open. The first time, I thought someone broke in. Each subsequent time, I'd go through the townhouse and no one was there. The hallway light, which was also the stair light, had a switch at the bottom of the stairs and top that controlled the same light. Multiple times while in bed, the light would turn on. So I'd get up, do a search of the entire townhouse. Nothing there. Then the TV would turn on in the living room at some point, and I'd wake up and walk downstairs to the TV being on. This went on for months and I eventually moved. Nothing like this occurs in my current apartment. But could never explain what was happening. My nephew was pointing at a picture on the wall, saying "boo," and laughing, then the picture fell onto the desk below it. I was staying the night with a cousin on his ranch, and in his front yard there was a basketball hoop on a homemade wall, like concrete bricks stacked upwards, and we both to this day swear on God we saw what looked like a 8-foot-tall coyote standing up against the wall, tugging on the hoop. We closed the blinds quick, and that was the night we established the existence of the ranch's very own cryptid. I think we called it like Doom Dog or some shit. We were 9 to 10. Actually, I still don't understand the concept of déjà vu. It happens to me about twice a year, since I was around 18 years old. I'm 44. Just random places or experiences that I swear I have seen and been through before. It's so strange. A voice sounding like my friend's sister, calling out his name from a tree line in a park. Me and friend were walking home near the middle of the night, both of us heard it. He was called out 3 times. When I was 18 years old, I was driving home from a friend's house with another friend. We were on the highway doing about 110 kilometers per hour, 70 miles per hour, and made this trip often. It's a big highway between 2 towns, so just fields either side. Something on 2 legs ran alongside my car. I saw it in the rearview mirror and out my side window. It was not a kangaroo, it was human-like. Had long arms and obviously extremely fast. My friend saw it too, and then it just went off the road back into the grass. Neither of us could explain it. In college, my girlfriend had a nightmare that her pet iguana, at home with her father, had frozen to death after being left outside. She woke up sobbing, and that woke me up. I calmed her down and told her it was just a dream. We both eventually got back to sleep. The next morning, her father called to say that her pet iguana had been left outside overnight and had frozen to death. This wasn't a recurring dream or worry for her. This was the only time it happened. Neither of us can explain the events without the aid of religion or 1 in a trillion coincidence. A tree fell in front of us while we were driving. It almost killed us. Moments later, a group of men dressed in nice clothes just happened to have chainsaws in their car that was black and black-tinted windows. They started cutting up the tree. We quickly turned around and said, "Nope." I tried to tell myself that it was just Mormons who happened to have chainsaws in the back of their car. I called my mom the other day to see if she still remembers that incident, and she does. I, 13 at the time, was about to go to bed. I was brushing my teeth in front of my bedroom window, staring into the dark, when I suddenly heard someone screaming outside. I stopped brushing so I could hear it better. Someone was screaming out my name. I sort of froze and kept listening. More voices joined, all screaming my name and laughing loudly. It was kind of like an audience at a sports game. It went on for about 5 minutes. When it stopped, I, in shock, went downstairs to my parents to ask them if they'd heard anything. It was impossible not to hear, as it was very loud. They had not heard anything. I assume it was some sort of a hallucination. Still feel weird when I'm alone in my room late at night. I was standing on the seaside walkway with a bunch of other people watching the sunset. A red orb came speeding down the coastline at like 50-150 m altitude. Didn't think much of it until it instantly stopped and speeded back the way it came until it was out of sight. No noise, too low for a plane or helicopter, and wasn't a flare because it was flying fast, stopped instantly, and then flew back the way it came. Several people saw it, but this was before mobile phones with cameras were a mainstream thing. I live outside city limits. There are very few houses near my home and many tall bushes and trees around the house. There is a small mountain at some distance. The nights are very quiet and there is no street lights, so after dark, the only lights are the lights from my house and the moonlight. There are 2 trees a little far from my house that are standing close to one another. One night, while I was outside my house with a flashlight doing something, I realized there was only one of those trees. I looked around that tree with my flashlight, but there was no sign of the other tree, like it never existed. The next day I went there during daytime to see exactly what happened to the other tree, and they both were there just like I remembered. I looked around them and even climbed on them to see anything strange, but nothing was out of ordinary. This incident happened to me when I was 10 years old. My friend and I were cycling. It was around 7:15, and it had gotten dark. There was a road where we usually cycled, but it was a dead end. There were bushes on one side and a wall with barbed wires. At the end of the road, there was a residential complex on the right side, and a small route led to the farms. The middle part of the road was all quiet and dark. My friend and I were just chatting and cycling when I heard a sound. I don't remember it well, but it seemed like a little girl weeping. Just as I was about to ask my friend, "Hey, did you hear that?" he shouted, "Run." Ah. When we reached the other side of the road where the residential complex was, I asked him, "What the heck, bro? What happened?" He was shivering in fear and said he saw a woman in the bushes with a big white eye. When some people appeared on the road, we quickly left. We were shivering with fear, and to this day, we don't know how to explain it. When I was about 16, I was at a sleepover LAN party with some kids from my school. They were more of the sporty types. Sort of friends, but more so acquaintances. One of them wanted to go to the store and I went with them. It was night, probably 9 or 10 p.m. This was in a very small town in New England, by the way. Anyway, we're driving, and this monkey cat-looking creature just hops out of the woods and lands right in front of the car. We just stopped and froze, then it hopped into the other side. And this was 2 total hops. Thing went far. We spent the rest of the night trying to figure out what animal that was. Anyone know? I was thinking about that the other day, but I never really talked to the kid in the first place and haven't seen him since high school. Edit, had a really long tail. Thinking back, more like the head of a cat and the body of a monkey. It wasn't very large, but definitely not small. Light brown. I was in my 6th grade and going through the stored stuff, looking for old books, letters, scrapbooks, in the dilapidated part of my ancestral home. I swear I could see my great-great-grandfather's brother, whom I had seen only in old photos and had died very young, from outside the window yelling at me to get out. I got scared, ran out, and the whole roof came crashing down. As a kid on rainy days, I would grab my umbrella and jacket and play around in the rain, collecting raindrops. When I was about 11, I was playing outside in my front yard one day. I decided to go into the sidewalk to catch a bit more rain. I then looked into the street. It was a foggy rainy day, but I could have sworn I saw someone who looked exactly like me. Me being a kid, I panicked, ran inside for the rest of the rain, but I was still an idiot, so I never really told anyone, 'cause I thought that they wouldn't believe me. Edit, holy guacamole, didn't know others had the same experience as me. Also, to clarify more, they didn't copy my movements like a mirror. Yes, we were both standing and the same height, but when I was running and turned around for a moment, they didn't really seem to move. They just stood there staring. A few years ago, I was staying in Alabama with a friend. One day I was driving down a steep road in the rain and fog. It wasn't quite night yet, but it was getting dark. Within the blink of an eye, there was a little girl on the side of the road walking towards my car, and I thought I was about to hit her head on, and she disappeared. I panicked and turned around, and there was no one. I'll never forget it because my brain just can't make sense of it. Not seen, but felt/heard. Was 14, sat at my computer picking/biting my lips, which my dad always hated. Someone pulled my hair, as he always did, to get me to stop, and said my name. My dad died when I was 13. My ex-boyfriend is a diagnosed schizophrenic, and he often told me about the things/people he saw and heard. One summer, on several late nights, he kept seeing a big, dark creature in the middle of the road on the way to drop me off home. He'd stop the car in a panic and wake me up. I'd always fall asleep on the way home, and tried to get me to see this creature. I never saw anything, so I told him it was probably his schizophrenia. Well, on one night I stayed awake on the drive home and I saw the damn creature in the road. It had the body of a huge bear, long horse-like legs, it didn't seem to have a neck, it was blacker than night, and had a glowing white Cheshire grin. I said, "What the fuck is that?" And my boyfriend said, "See, I've been trying to tell you." We watched it cross the road and disappear in thin air. That was the last time he and I ever saw the thing. This was about 10 years ago. Not seen but heard. I swear, I keep hearing breathing in my fucking room in the middle of the night. Edit, thanks for the upvotes, I only hear it every couple of months or so, haha. I think my room's haunted or maybe I'm going insane, thinking face. A drive that usually takes me less than 3 hours, took me more than 4 once. I don't know how it happened. No traffic, didn't take the wrong path, didn't see anything strange in the road, same speed as usual. Everything was normal until I noticed it was starting to get dark, then checked the clock and freaked out. Image the situation. Me, 13 years old girl walking with my dog in fresh snow. Really fresh 5 centimeters of snow. No one around. I see big, really big, black dog. I look at my dog. My dog is terrified and trying to get home. We run home. I wait for 10 minutes and go check that dog. I was stupid, yes. There are no dog footprints. None at all. On fresh snow. Only footprints of me and my dog. I checked all area, nope, nothing. It wasn't hallucination. My dog nearly peed when he saw that black Gant dog. How Romain Grosjean went through the barriers of Bahrain and came out alive. Edit link for those who haven't seen it. I don't know how to put this. But there was a period of time when I would get home from work late at night. During this time, I'd get out of my vehicle and head towards the front door, obviously. But without fail, nearly every night, I would look up at the stars, without really knowing why. I would look at the moon for a long while with no thoughts in my head. Eventually, I noticed a bright white light, every night, at the same spot in the sky. A bright star? Probably. A distant planet? Could be. So during my little stargazing routine, I'd look for that bright star. One night it was gone. And ever since then I stopped feeling entranced by the night sky. Sometimes I miss that light in the sky, but most of the time I don't think of it. Never did find out what it may have been.